Welcome to episode 17 of the It's in the Ballot 2023 election season. Today we are joining remote candidates from the East Coast Electorate. Currently we are here by the sunny Lake Rotorua, just outside of Rotorua, broadcasting from someone's lounge. We have apologies from the Greens' Jordan Walker and Vision NZ's Leighton Packer. But fortunately, today we have Labour's Tāmati Coffey and DemocracyNZ's Chris Robertson. Thanks for joining us. First off, we'll get the opening statements from our lovely candidates. So they'll have 1 minute to introduce themselves to you. Let's start with Tāmati. When you're ready.
Thank you for the introduction. I'm not sure. Hey, look, everybody. My name's Tāmati Coffey. I am the Labour candidate for the East Coast Electorate. It is a beautiful part of the country that's had a real hammering over the last 6 years. I'm putting my hand up to be their elected representative. I've been in Parliament since 2017. It's been my honour and privilege to serve New Zealand during some pretty turbulent times. I was there after Whakaari erupted on the ground. I was there during and after, before, during and after COVID-19 arrived on our shores, and now we can look over our shoulder and it's now in our distant past. But I'm still here and I'm putting my hand up to stand for the East Coast in the place of Kirkpatrick, who is my good friend and colleague who got into a bit of trouble recently and had to step back from Parliament. I'm proud to be standing here. It's an area that I know well. I have whakapapa connections up and down to Tairawhiti, and the Eastern Bay of Plenty is an area that I've traversed quite a lot over the last 6 years. So I know the issues, I know the investment, and I'm looking forward to being the MP for the East Coast.
Unfortunately, we have been having some technical difficulties getting Chris online, so I think we'll give him an opportunity to have an introductory minute if we're able to connect. In the meantime, let's have a look at the electorate in question, the East Coast Electorate, and I'll head over to Sam, who's going to tell us all about it.
Yes, so that's the joys of what happens when you're from the multiple people getting to jump in the different teams. So the East Coast Electorate, as you can see here, covers quite a vast area, includes both the 06 and the 07 telephone calling area. Starting from the bottom of the electorate, just outside, I'd say, the Gisborne city limits, you've got Gisborne, and as you head up the coast, you've got Tolaka Bay, Tokamaru Bay, head right up to Te Aotearoa, and there's Te Kaha on the east coast. Go head right into here, we've got Opotiki. And we've got Whakatane and Ohope in, the north? The north of the electorate. Got Edgecombe, Matata. Now Makatu it does include, but doesn't include Te Puke, and also includes the settlement of, Karadal. And we're heading down the bottom, we also have Murupara, and it does include some of the areas of the near Lake Waikaremoana, but not Waikaremoana, as that's in the what's it called? The was it Napier Electorate? So that's what we've got there, and it looks like Chris is back. Welcome.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, let's we'll let Alex. We'll get you to kick off with your opening statement since we've got you back now.
Yeah, kia ora and welcome everyone. I'm Chris Robinson, DemocracyNZ candidate. I live in Whakatane. I've been here about 18 months. I originally hail from, I was a teenager in Edgecombe. I went to Edgecombe College, worked at the dairy factory. I was recruited into the police, and when I was 19, spent 37 years in the police, senior police officer in Auckland. And I've returned back here 18 months ago. And the reason why I'm standing is just I was concerned about some of the incident, the way the country has been headed. So I'm a friend of Matt King's, and he asked me to stand, so that's why I'm doing it. I'm trying to do the best for the country.
Yeah.
I'm just I can't see myself in the camera. Just checking that. Can you see me all right?
Yeah, we can see you perfectly fine. Your shot looks quite good.
Most
Okay.
importantly, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, we'll cross over to the next segment, the questions we think you'll be asking after watching today's show. Let's kick it up on screen. Will you be able to afford to spend $300 a week on childcare to get the maximum childcare rebate in a cost of living crisis? Is it time for EQC to expand its scope to include climate change for disaster cover? And if no-cause rental evictions are reinstated in 2026, will people have to worry about being evicted for allowing a campaigning politician to use their bathroom in their house if their landlord finds out and does not like that politician? Some very touchy questions that could be on the cards there. Back to you, Alex.
Thank you. And so now we are up to the our question boxes. We have 28 questions picked out for this electorate. Each candidate will have a chance to pick one and one at a time and answer the questions. They'll have a minute to do so. Some of them are thought-provoking. Some of them are a bit loaded. All of them are viewer submitted. So just the sort of thing that politicians have to deal with. We have the mechanism for butt-in cards, where if a candidate wants to respond to two butt-in cards, so if a candidate wants to respond to the answer of another candidate's question, they are able to do so after that candidate has finished the answer. And we also are allowing the candidates a chance to defer a question if they feel that the other candidate would like to answer. So let's start off. We have 28 boxes, all randomly filled with questions. So Tāmati, would you like to pick a number between 1 and 28?
Back at me, but my birthday is number 19, so let's go with that.
Wonderful. So number 19, X. What would you do to financially assist local government to fix pipes and infrastructure?
What we know.
We've got no sound coming through, Tāmati.
I haven't changed anything. Now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, we've got sound going through now.
Note that I did nothing. So that's it. Hey, look, we've been really passionate about making sure water is the best it can be. Just over the last couple of days, you've got broken pipes in Auckland, the Auckland beach. In Queenstown, there's an issue down there with cryptoridium. There's been a infection in the pipes, and people are getting sick. We've really trying to make this. But we've been pushing to partner with good water, great storm. Anybody wants good movement, no more.
You're going to need to give me when that minute is. Thank you. Now, Chris, would you like to pick a number?
I'll go for 15.
Marima. That number is O. What is your policy on tackling New Zealand's obesity problem?
I think probably looking at education. At the moment, we've got a lot of young people that are they're addicted to fast food and fizzy drinks. So I think starting off with getting kids into more education around healthy lifestyles and healthy living, getting them out more active. Just rather and getting kids out and about doing stuff and getting them off junk food.
Yes, certainly good to move the body. Tāmati, would you like to pick a number?
Sound issues again, Tāmati.
Doing anything from my end?
Yeah, I don't know. It seems to keep randomly auto-muting.
25.
25. All right. What are you/your party going to do about the climate crisis? No biggie.
It's a hugie. Look, we only a few days ago released our climate manifesto. We're one of the only parties to really stump up manifesto dedicated to our climate change action response. Really proud of it. Have navigate emissions budget, actions from the Climate Change Commission, look to reduce our emissions, move to electric vehicles, creating more free support for under 13-year-olds, half price for under 25-year-olds. Actually partnered with some of the New Zealand Steel and Fonterra have been places where we've co-invested for emissions. The New Zealand Steel deal, that partnership alone will be the equivalent. We're proud of that. And I think that New Zealanders expect, and when I say New Zealanders, I just really want to shout out to our young New Zealanders who are the ones that are striking in the streets, saying that they want more action on climate change. There are a range of things that we can be doing, from reducing our emissions through from in New Zealand to be able to fix this crisis.
Can I butt in on that?
Oh, yes. And so...
are you can you hear Tāmati very well? Because I'm actually, it's breaking up quite badly.
Yeah, I would be saying, if you can, Tāmati, can you please refresh your internet connection, as you were jumping backwards and forwards during that connection. Now, actual button or just mentioning the issue with the audio?
What about now?
Fingers crossed it's better. So far, so good. I've been given a little message here. Can you ask him to turn off a hands-free device and use the microphone on the device? I'm not sure what. Yeah, it's just something that's been suggested as an option that's come through to me.
And take the
Say again.
speaker off.
No. Oh no. Okay. No, it was just you was it don't use a hands-free device if you're using that to communicate. Not sure if you are or not. That was just a guess. Back to you, Alex.
Yes, sorry about all of this. So Chris, was that a button for this question or just for the technical details?
I don't know, just for the I got something to say about the question.
Okay, excellent. Fire
Yeah.
away.
Okay, we've got a slightly different view on climate change. What we're saying is we should look at the review the science. There are a number of over 1,500 scientists that are disputing some of the climate change modelling that the government and a lot of the countries around the world are using. What they're saying is that, and what is a proven fact, is that only 0.04% of the atmosphere is carbon dioxide and only 4.3% of that is man-made. And and CO2 is actually vital for plant life. And they've also, scientists taken ice core samples, and they can go back thousands of years and say what the Earth's temperature was and what the CO2 level was. So what these scientists are saying is that CO2 follows the global temperature. So we agree there is climate change because the climate's been changing for thousands of years. But what our concern is that there's been a lot of money spent, and like the likes of farmers getting crushed to comply with climate change legislation, and it's based on faulty science. So that's our stance. So we say let's have a look at listen to some of these other scientists that have got a different view, because some of the legislation we believe is unworkable and unnecessary.
So are you saying that the current rising levels are not a problem?
The current what, sorry?
The current rising carbon dioxide levels are not a problem, or?
Well, no, we're saying they're not, because the reality is 95.7% of all CO2 is actually produced by nature. The sea, when it heats up, produces carbon dioxide. The leaves, you've got all the forests in the world, right? You've got all these forests. When the leaves fall on the ground, leaves are carbon. When the leaves decompose, they produce carbon dioxide. That's why the majority of the carbon dioxide that's created in the atmosphere is created by nature. That's a proven fact. The man-made carbon dioxide is only it's 0.0. Well, it's 4. Carbon dioxide is only 0.4% of the atmosphere, and of that, only 4.3% is man-made. And anything less than 0.02% of CO2 means that you don't have plant life. So
I think
there are a lot of scientists that dispute the current modelling. So I think we should have an honest, an open debate about it.
Well, we'll see in 100 years in Seatoon. I think it's time to move on. So, Chris, I think it's your turn to pick a number.
17.
17. Question Q. Property investors often outbid first home buyers at home auctions. How would you encourage these investors to switch to more productive investments?
Well, I think investors are always going to go where there's a return. So, I mean, ideally, you'd get people investing in productive, like in, say, the share market and so forth. But at the moment, I don't think that the market at the moment, because of the way the yields and the yield on your return for a rental property isn't that good. So a lot of the investors are out of the property market. But I think the long term, what we should be doing is trying to increase the supply, because if you look at, say, here in Whakatane, I did a check this morning. I went on Trade Me, and there's only one place for rent. So what we need to do is, rather than, say, targeting property investors, we should actually just be building more homes. It's just too difficult to build a home. In fact, I think there's only 5 in the whole of the Whakatane, going from Matata through to Ahope, Edgecombe. There was 5 properties for rent, and I think 3 of those were 2 bedrooms. So, and the 2 bedroom, the one 2 bedroom place in Whakatane that I could find on Trade Me was a 2 bedroom apartment, was $650. So we think that we should just be building more homes.
I think there's been some cross-party agreement in that, and some of the electorate videos that we've had so far. Sam, can I get you to sort of give me a signal when the minute is up? And yeah. And now we'll go to Tāmati, if you pick a number.
26.
26. Rotakama Ono, number F. With the downturn in the economy, many small businesses are struggling to stay afloat. Has your party got any policies that would assist them through these tough times?
Yeah, actually, I'll talk about the fact that I've been a small business owner for the last 8 years, owning a small bar and a small restaurant in downtown Rotorua and part of the Easing Precinct. And just to talk about what we've been doing is making sure that we are, all throughout COVID, we were making sure as a government we were supporting small business owners. It was quite surreal for me as a person that was going through Parliament at the time, navigating through COVID, but also being a small business owner that needed a whole heap of support, especially in hospitality with some pretty severe restrictions. We made sure that we looked after people looked after small businesses with using the wage subsidy scheme and keeping workers connected to jobs. I think that if there's something that small businesses need right now, it's actually hands on deck. Whether you're talking to farmers out here in the region, or you're talking to hospital staff or the health sector, everybody's crying out for staff. And so lots of things that we've been doing. We've reset our immigration policy to allow people to be able to come in and fill some of those skill shortages that we've currently got as a pathway to residency. That's really important. We've been making sure that we are we're also growing our own local talent and freeing up a space in our tertiary institutes for apprentices. We've trained up 60,000 apprentices since we introduced the Apprenticeship Boost scheme in New Zealand, taking away the barrier of fees to get into university and polytech, so that we get our workforce into some of our small businesses to be able to take up those opportunities. There's a host of things. There's not one kind of silver bullet for small businesses, but we've been doing a myriad of things to be able to help out in what's essentially quite trying times. Did you hear any of that?
I could hear it.
Oh, that's one. Thanks, Chris.
I can still see you on the screen too. I think we've lost them. Hang on. I can't hear them.
Neither. How's the weather over there?
Pretty good. Where are you at the moment, Rotorua?
Gizzy.
Oh, Gizzy. Okay. They've had a lot of rain, eh?
Yeah, it's been quite a lot of rain.
I think we've lost them.
I hope we're back.
Oh, yeah, there they go.
Yes.
Cool. Hey, welcome back.
Thank goodness for the cloud. Sounds like you were getting on quite well with running the show. So no, thanks for your patience.
Yeah, we'll ask our own questions. We're good.
Yeah. All right, Chris, would you like to pick a number?
I'll just got a phone call coming through. Number 1.
Number 1. AB. Do you believe that 16-year-olds have the maturity to vote?
I'd have to say no. I know when I was 16, I was thinking about a lot of things, but politics wasn't one of them. I was thinking about sport and other things. So I think it's good if they do get a little bit interested in politics, but the thing is, they may be just focused on, well, I don't think they've got the life skills, and it may be just that they're focused more on, say, singular issues. And I think at the moment, a lot of the young people would probably, their main focus would be, they'd just be voting on maybe climate change. I think is a big thing for, and probably education. So yeah, I'd have to say I would leave the voting age at current age myself.
Yeah. Hey, can I butt in?
Absolutely.
Can you see me? Because I've lost you guys.
No.
Well, we can hear you.
I can't see you, Tāmati.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's work on that while I just try and answer the question.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Now.
Hey, awesome. Look, I believe that 16-year-olds do. I think that the measure of whether or not you should be able to vote is down to whether or not you pay tax. That, to me, is a really good threshold to have. And I think that 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, plenty of them have part-time jobs. And so I think that gives them a ticket to be able to participate in the democratic process. I think that 16 and 17-year-olds, they can have sex. Many of them can be, they have a lot of freedoms at 16 and 17. And I think that the earlier that we get young people involved in politics, the better it is for us all, for our democracy, for understanding the importance of their voice. I mean, when we talk about climate change, they're the ones that are going to be picking up the pieces. So yes, I absolutely believe that 16-year-olds are mature enough to vote. And when you start talking about maturity to vote, you know, what happens down the other end? Do we start asking questions about whether or not you can get too old to vote as well? Is that a valid question? I think 16 and 17-year-olds are ready for the challenge. And I think that by doing it would enable our schools to be able to pick up a bit of education in that space too, which can only be beneficial.
Yes. The thing that I find about this question is that, especially for people in political parties, it's one of those ones where it's difficult. Yes, it's difficult to for the answer to be totally independent of what might benefit the party or not, and not that any of the answers were right or wrong, but yes, it is just one of the challenges with democracy, is that, you know, we're all, yes, we are all individuals rather than sort of omnipotent and all logical beings without a stake in the world. We are all we're all just fallible humans. All right. So Tāmati, I think it's your turn to pick a number.
Let's go number 2.
In your opinion, this is question why, in your opinion, over the past 3 years, what is the worst thing that has happened to New Zealand politically?
Politically, it's been COVID. The arrival of COVID in our country has been, I mean, remember, 2020 was the COVID election. We were running out of masks. There were some people protesting, most of the country getting vaccinated. We were in a really different space than where we are today. So that has dictated the political calendar, itinerary, budget as well over the last few years. And I think it's really easy for people to forget just how far we've come, and we've been able to look over our shoulder and think about, how well we handled that situation. I think that COVID was something that nobody expected would happen. I think that we make the right decision to lock down and to get our population sorted out. And now it is a memory for us. So I would say COVID-19. But how we dealt with it wasn't necessarily the worst thing in the world. In fact, we were revered for our response.
Yes. So, Chris, what is your number?
I'll keep it simple. I'll go number 3. We'll go lose track.
All right, that's question number V. How effective do you consider the government's intervention/action on youth offending has been?
Well, unfortunately, there's been a huge spike in youth offending. I believe RAM rates are up about 500%. Unfortunately, yeah, we've got a lot of youth that have become disengaged from the education system. I think truancy is getting up towards about 50%. And they've just, they're not at school, so they're doing other things. And we've got to try and address that somehow. We've got to get them back interested, engaged in school, get them motivated that they can make a career and have a worthwhile life. Because once they're lost to the education system and they start getting losing their will to work and get them to, say, a bad environment, it's very, very hard to come back from that. And then we've got the situation where, some of the youth justice facilities, we've seen them on the roofs lighting fires and the rest of it. I've got friends in the police that tell me that they're going to some of those facilities, they're assaulting guards. So it's a really difficult, it's a very, very difficult one to resolve, and we've got to sort of work with some of the people in that field with some of their mentors and try and work with the families. But it's something that I think it's got to start with education and getting some of the support people around those young children.
All right, Tāmati, what's your question?
7 looks good.
Is government spending on cycling and cycleways a waste of money?
Oh, no, not at all.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No, not at all. We need to acknowledge that plenty of our cities are really flat, and that lots of people take trips which are between home and school and home and work, and some of those trips are actually quite short. And we should be encouraging different ways to be able to get around our cities. So yes, cycling and cycleways are a way to do that, and I'd like to see more. And as the dad of a little 4-year-old, I'm nervous about what some councils deem to be cycleways. A strip of paint on the side of the road doesn't give me confidence as a dad to send my little 4-year-old off down the road to go play at the playground and to know that they'll be safe. So I want to see more investment in this space, definitely, but also I want to make sure that cycleways are actually safe.
Absolutely. And if you've ever had the opportunity to ride from Wellington to Lower Hutt, yes, it's just because there is a cycle width space that's available doesn't necessarily mean that it counts as a good cycleway. All right, Chris, what's your question?
Number 4.
What is your party's position on the 3 waters reform, and do you have an alternative model?
We're opposed to 3 waters. We believe that that the local water infrastructure was paid for by the ratepayers and belongs to the ratepayers. So that's our policy position, and I guess it's a big. It depends on the different councils how they fund it, but we believe obviously it's got to be it's got to be kept up to spec, but we don't believe it should be taken away from the councils and go into government control. So yeah, definitely opposed to it.
All right, Tāmati. Okay, we have lost visuals, but what number would you like?
Chris, would you like to go for another? Oh no, Tāmati's back.
Hey, sorry team. This internet thing is a little bit challenging.
Yeah. No, thanks for your persistence. Yes, we're at a beautiful remote location by a lakeside, but it's not necessarily conducive to running a web show. Would you like to pick a number?
Sure. 13.
Question number R. What is your party's policy to get families out of emergency accommodation and into long-term stable housing?
Our policy is the same policy that it's been since we came in 2017, knowing the extent of the homelessness problem, and that is to build more houses. And we can't do it ourselves. Obviously, the government needs to partner with business, with iwi, with councils to be able to do that. We are not going to solve the homelessness problem by ourselves. But just yesterday here in Gisborne, I was cutting the ribbon on 31 new houses, new government-supported houses here for whānau that are needing that extra bit of support for housing, and elated at the thought that 31 new families are going to be going into those houses over the coming weeks. We have built 13,000 of them around the country, trying to reinstate the housing stock that got sold off under the last national government. It's been a priority of ours, and we've committed to, if re-elected, continuing that momentum.
Thank you. Chris, the next number is yours.
Number 5.
Question U. What is your party's policy on gun control? Do you support the gun register that was established?
No, we don't support the gun register. I mean, I think it sounds like a good idea in theory, but from all the information we received, it's very expensive and unworkable. And then I've spoken to a lot of gun owners that are concerned that information may fall into the wrong hands and they could be the subject of burglary. So no, we would be opposed to that.
Information falling into the wrong hands. I believe we may have a corruption question coming up at some stage, so we'll see. Right, Tāmati, the question is yours.
Oh, sorry, it might not be a corruption issue, but also just being hacked. There could be corruption, it could be hacked. So a lot of people got concerns about that.
All right. Tāmati.
14. Yeah.
Question M. Rest homes are losing registered nurses to Te Whatu Ora as they are unable to match their pay packages. Do you think that pay packages for registered nurses should be equitable across all sectors of healthcare?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really important that we pay our nurses what they deserve. It's really hard to compete with an Australian market where New Zealanders are going over there to carry on the nursing careers. They pay considerably more. They have different terms and conditions, granted, but our nurses weren't given pay rises in the 9 years that the National Party were last in. Since we've come in, we've been really proactive in making sure that we're trying to address that difference in pay parity between nurses that are out in community care versus nurses that are inside a health system. So that's been a focus for us. It's something that we've put a significant amount of money into, and we'll continue that momentum.
Thank you. Chris?
Number 6.
We do have a question here. L. Do you think that transgender females should be able to compete in women's sports?
That's an easy one. No. We have concerns about that because what it's doing is making it very difficult for females to compete against someone that was, say, born a male, just naturally stronger, larger bone density. Also the psychological aspect that if, say, you've lifted a certain weight, that mental barrier has been removed. So I don't think it's good that women have to compete against someone who is physically stronger. So we oppose that.
And a kind of follow-up. Do you think there should be sort of degrees of grey here, given that I think was it recently trans women were banned from women's chess?
I don't think it really. Yeah, it's where I haven't thought about that side of it as far as it's probably a grey area, but obviously in chess, I don't think it would make much difference. But definitely where there's strength involved, it'll end up making a lot of women will want to get out of sport because you imagine yourself, you're a woman, you've trained, and then you come up against someone who's much bigger and stronger, and then you can't compete. Just don't think it's right.
All right, then over to you, Tāmati.
On that question? No, sorry. I've worked out that I've only got one more button left, and I want to use it conservatively because there's quite a few more boxes sitting in front of you. So I'll push on despite disagreeing with that last position. Number 20 for me, thanks.
Excellent. Question P for Potato. How is your party going to stop the increasing decline in children's dental health?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think that we need to, we've got mobile dental units which go around schools. I think that we can actually do better in that respect. I hear some cases where some of those units are spread quite thinly across regions, and the East Coast region is one of those places. I'd like to think that we can really step up what that looks like. But I think that there's a big education process that needs to happen. I know that there's already, programs that go around schools telling kids how much sugar is in the sugary drinks and that kind of stuff. I think that needs to continue because I think there's a growing awareness of just how much sugar is in the diet of our young people. I'm actually a supporter of fluoridation in our water and giving the Ministry of Health the ability to determine whether or not that should be a thing. I think that's really good, and having spoken to people that work in both child health and in dental surgeries across the country, there is absolute agreement from our medical professionals that that's the right thing to do.
All right, Chris, the next number is yours.
Number 8.
Question C. Do you think that New Zealand should investigate having an independent commissioner against corruption as in New South Wales? I knew it would come up.
Yeah, I'm supportive of that. I think we need to keep our institutions honest. So, yeah, definitely a supporter of that.
Okay, short and sweet. Tāmati.
16.
J. Current information from overseas indicates that vaping is not a healthier alternative to smoking. Children of primary school age are becoming addicted. What is your party's plan to address this health concern?
Yeah, look, we're unhappy with the way that vaping is going in New Zealand. It was initially intended to be a method to be able to encourage smokers to reduce their incidence of nicotine use and kind of pathway into better solutions. The science on that one is a little bit, we haven't landed as a country or even as a government on where we sit on the health effects of vaping. It's still yet to be determined. But in the meantime, I know that there is concern around vaping around the communities up and down the East Coast. Just yesterday, I was in a vape shop here in Gisborne CBD and talking to the owner about some of the restrictions that were put in place to date. We want to get rid of disposable vapes because we think that's just it's the single-use plastic bag equivalent of vaping. So we've put limitations on that. But one of our goals is actually to reduce the amount of outlets and the geography to make sure that they're not near our schools as well. But 600 is the amount of outlets that we've said that we'll reduce the vape shops to. Here in Gisborne, there's like 28 alone. They're exploding on street corner shops all around the country, and we need to do better for the health of our children.
Is that 28 like dairies across Gisborne that have vapes available for sale?
Dairies, superettes, basically there's a lot of specialty vape stores that have popped up. Yeah, it's a lot.
I wouldn't have thought there would be that many vape shops in a small city like Gisborne, but you learn a lot every day.
There you go.
Technology, eh? It's never just as simple as we think. All right. Chris, the number is yours.
28.
The number of vape shops in Gisborne. Question D. The statement, opposition parties do not win elections, governments lose them. Do you agree or disagree with this statement?
I probably agree with that because a lot of the time people, when they're voting, they might think that the government's dropped the ball on certain things. So, I think that would probably be true. At the moment, I think a lot of people are concerned about the cost of living. So that could work against the government. There's also a lot of people that think COVID. Some people think the government did well, and other people are very adamant that they didn't do so good. So, yeah, I'd say that that's probably a true statement.
And just a side question, with around the East Coast, do you know, with the local councils down in New Zealand, we have, down in Wellington, we have single transferable vote for our council elections. Is it single transferable vote or FPP up here?
For the councils.
Mm.
Do you rank numbers on the voting paper or do you put ticks on them?
I just voted for the candidate.
All right.
Yeah.
Tāmati, your number is next.
Let's go 9.
Question AA. What will happen to the winter energy payment if your party is elected to govern?
We will carry it on. We were the party that brought it in. We were sick of some of our older senior cits telling us about how much they didn't like to put the heater on because the power bills were too expensive. We brought it in. It's about $20 an extra in their pay packets, our seniors, but also those of our lowest income New Zealanders receive about an extra $20 a week into their accounts over the course of winter, and that's been huge in preventing hospitalisations because of coldness and illnesses related to that. So we're really proud of the winter energy payment, and we will absolutely be continuing it if we get re-elected.
Thank you, Chris.
27.
Question E. How are you going to address the cost of living crisis?
Well, that's not going to be an easy one to address because inflation's out of control at the moment. One of the reasons it's out of control is because of record debt and supply chain issues. So we've got to start cutting red tape, try and simplify doing business. So interest rates is one of the biggest things, and that's put pressure on mortgage. Anyone with a mortgage will get paid more. That gets passed on to rentals. It's that goes right through the cost of everything. We've got fuel going up. We've got to try and stop wasted, the government wastage, and we've got to increase supply. So make the cost of supplying goods cheaper, and the cost of rents is one of the biggest things too. So we've got to build more homes. We've got to make it easier to do things in this country. At the moment, there's just like I said before, there's nowhere to live here. I know people that are living in cars. I've got people living in the car park across the road. I've got people living I know friends that are living in a bus with no power and rats running through it. So it's make things streamline processes so that we can get things done.
Can I use my button for this one?
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, that's me, 2 out of 2. Look, cost of living is one of the biggest issues, and Labor have got a pretty clear set of policies about what we're going to do. I talked earlier about the winter energy payment. We're confirming that we're going to keep that in place. That will help to reduce the cost of living, especially on power and energy bills. We are committed to a program of insulation in homes and helping homeowners to be able to insulate their very cold homes. That's another way that we can help whānau to be able to save on power bills as well, where all of the heating, if you're in an uninsulated home, is going straight up and out of the walls. The $5 payment on part prescriptions when you go to the chemist, picking that medication up without having to pay the $5 fee. Many people can't afford that because they are squeezed at the moment. So we've taken that off. Note that the National Party have said that they'll put it straight back on when they're re-elected. So that's something to consider too. We've incentivised public transport, trying to get young people onto buses, trying to get people under 24. You get people under 13 get free public transport. Under 25, they get half price public transport. All of these things we are doing to try and reduce the cost of living on New Zealanders.
Thank you. And I believe you have the next question.
Go, Levin. We're getting there, Chris. We're getting there.
Yes, no, you're doing well. Question N for no. In your opinion, how well is the government managing the adverse medical and social impacts of the COVID vaccinations?
Yeah, look, it's actually, the Prime Minister said it on the Leaders' Debate last night. If there have been any negative effects from the COVID vaccine, we have a very strong and robust ACC system where people are able to go to ACC and get support if they've been adversely affected by whether it's COVID-19 vaccines or anything to do with our health system. There is a current place for them to go, and they are going there.
Can I use my button?
Yep.
Yeah. We've got a major concern about the adverse effects of the vaccine, because I speak to people all the time that say that I know so many people that have been injured, and they've been to the hospitals, they've been to doctors, and a lot of them are young. A lot of them are in their 20s and 30s, and they've got heart problems in particular. And they go to the doctor or hospital, and they get told there's nothing wrong with you. It's not related to the vaccine, and it's very hard to prove it. But it's not normal to get a lot of young people, in particular, coming down with heart issues. and a lot of these people just feel like they lost it, and I was really disturbed last night, particularly I know that they are getting thrown. A lot of they feel like they've been thrown under the bus. But I've heard Christopher Luxon say that they wouldn't even acknowledge vaccine injuries, which I found really disturbing. So, sorry, is that the bell?
A makeshift one.
All right. I think it's Chris, your turn.
26.
Oh, we don't have a 26.
Okay, 24.
Question H. The Future of Local Government report says a significant fund is also needed to support climate change adaptation activities. How is your party going to respond to this issue?
Yeah, I sort of touched on that previously. Our stance is that we should listen to some of these scientists, including Nobel Prize winners, and there's over 1,500 scientists saying that there is climate change, but it's not caused by the CO2 levels that we're emitting. So because of the CO2 that humans are responsible for is such a small amount, like I said before, it's only CO2 is 0.04% of the atmosphere, and mankind is only producing 4.3% of it. So there's a lot of science that contradicts what the track that the government, and it's not just New Zealand, it's mainly the Western world, is going down. So we think we should get a second opinion and listen to some of these other scientists.
Okay, Tāmati.
21, my age.
Here we go. Question Z. In your opinion, should councils be forced by the Ministry of Health to fluoridate their water supplies?
Yeah, if it's the Ministry of Health making the decision about fluoridation, yeah, we should. We absolutely should. What we've done in the past is actually just let councils decide for themselves, which is just basically often comes from a non-health perspective and just a political perspective. The ability to make decisions about this should be in the public good, and it should be driven by health professionals that we trust. And I believe the Ministry of Health are well placed to do that work.
All right, Chris, which one would you like?
23.
23. Question W. The Future of Local Government report says the current local government funding and finance system is already under pressure and is not sustainable. How is your party going to respond to this issue?
I haven't read that report, so I'd have to just say from a point of view that I'd say they'd have to control their spending, and as far as, like, I know, for example, the spending on the say climate change, for example, maybe they just got to re-look at that. So like I say, we consider that a lot of that spending is unnecessary. I know that there is issues, like say here in Whakatane with the stop bank. That's definitely should be done. There's always going to be weather events, so we need to focus on the really important matters like roading and flood protection. But I know some of the councils may be wasting some money, so it's spending the money wisely.
Okay, and Tāmati.
Is that the last four?
This is the last four.
There you go. Cool. 22.
Question K. Do you think that New Zealand has coped well with the COVID-19 pandemic, and what lessons have we learned?
Yeah, I do think we've coped well with it. What are the lessons that we've learned? We've learned that actually we can pull together and get through a crisis when we're faced with potential fatalities across the board. We've learned that the best way to deliver things like vaccines is actually at a local level, and by partnering with some of our organisations. I saw our Māori organisations and our Pacific organisations stepping up in that respect, and I'm proud of the work that they did and the soldiers that they were able to find in the communities to be able to help out with that work. I think that we've learned that we are vulnerable when it comes to things like pandemics. There's no playbook to it, so we are subject to having to make decisions on the fly, and often with imperfect information, but still do what's right for New Zealanders. I'm proud of our response, and I do think that we coped really well.
Can I button?
Have you got any more left? Are you buttoning? This is 2 out of 2.
I thought we could button more.
Hey, go for it. It's not my show.
Yeah, I think I've lost count now. Let's just say yes for the moment, and then yeah.
All right, this will be my last one, right? I promise. We have a different view. We don't believe that it was handled well, because we'll start off with the fact that we were told it was safe and effective, right? So we dispute that. The fact that when they said it was safe and effective, not all the safety data was made available. The fact that the FDA, it was Emergency Use Authorization, the FDA tried to hide the safety data for 75 years. They were forced to release it, and it showed it wasn't that safe. We, as far as the effectiveness goes, one of the Pfizer executives, Joe Small, visited in the European Parliament that they needed tested to see if it stops transmission. Because the High Court in South Africa forced the government to release the Pfizer contract, which states that Pfizer, in their contract, said it was not safe, effective, and they didn't know the long-term safety effects.
All right, Chris, now you have a number to pick.
18.
A. Over the past few years, New Zealand has suffered from many forms of division. How would your party reconnect people and heal the divide so we are a united country once again?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's one of the biggest problems we've got at the moment. We would try and take the race out of everything. I don't know how it's going to take a while to stop the division over COVID. That's one of the things which came out of COVID, is that it really divided the country. The people that didn't get vaccinated were ostracised, and a lot of those people are now the marriage is split up. People, families, they're not speaking to each other again. So that's those wounds, I don't know if they're going to heal. But as far as the other thing is with, we take the race out of everything. At the moment, we're becoming quite divided on the race, and we just think that we respect different cultures 100%, but I don't want to see New Zealand going down a racial divide.
All right, Tāmati, between 12 and 10.
12.
Question B. How has New Zealand changed since you were a child? Has it changed for the better?
Has it changed for the better? Yeah, I'm a history geek, so one of the first things that I was ever taught was not to think that because we're living in today's day and age that actually things are always better, and it's just a trap that we tend to fall into. But has it changed? Let me tell you about some of the things that I've observed that have changed. When I was a young kid, it was actually illegal to be gay in New Zealand. And here I sit in 2023, not just an out and proud man, but actually able to get married, able to have kids, and the landscape, the culture towards gay people in New Zealand has significantly changed. When I was a kid, people called me Tāmati because they didn't or wouldn't say it properly. and there was different ways of, there was kind of a renaissance in Māori language that was happening here in 2023. We are much further down that, to where newsreaders are now using Te Reo Māori in the everyday sentences. I believe that that's a better thing. We've come a long way. I am proud of the treaty settlements and the historical settlements that we've had as a country, and how far we've come in that space too.
Indeed. And finally, Chris, I suspect that you're going to be picking number 10.
That's right.
So the question is G. Will your party review the relationships and sexuality education in primary schools?
Yes, we will. We've got a lot of feedback from parents who are concerned about some of the content of that program within, particularly to do with young children. In fact, I've got a lot of people very, very concerned. And I think there's been an 80% increase in homeschooling in the last 5 years. And a number of parents have pulled their children out of school. So I think it relates particularly to some of the content, which is quite sexually explicit, and probably it's unnecessary for young children. So I'm an advocate for the people that support me, and I have a lot of very, very concerned parents, and I'm their voice.
Can I butt in?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, look, we developed in conjunction with parents the guidelines, the REC guidelines in primary schools. What we've developed is a way to be able to have those conversations that some young people can't actually have at home, and it's things like, you know, understanding that there's not just male and female in this world, that there's actually some people that live transgendered as well. And there are some young people in those schools that are transgendered but don't have the ability to be able to have conversations openly about it. I think enlightening our young people into what relationships look like, healthy relationships, is really important. I think that's something that we should continue to encourage, because sometimes young people in their own homes are subject to all kinds of abuse. And I think it's really important that in a school safe environment, we're using the opportunity to talk about what healthy relationships look like. Younger people are becoming more and more exposed to online images and you know, some of that yucky stuff that dominates the internet. And we need to encourage young people to be safe in these spaces. And if parents are uncomfortable with that, they always have the ability to be able to take their kids out of that classroom.
Well, thank you for some good answers. Typically we'd have a break, but I think because we've had a bit of a challenging start, I'd like to move on now to the hard-hitting questions. Are we having the... So, hard-hitting questions, which both candidates will have a minute. They'll each be able to answer the question. They'll each have a minute. No buttons, no defers, because everyone's going to be answering it anyway. And question number one, I'll field to Tāmati first. What is the most pressing issue in the East Coast electorate currently?
The extreme weather events is the most pressing issue. There's a thing called rainxiety around here, where it rains and people are nervous about what it means for more slash coming down the hills. Over in Aotearoa the other day, half of the township was underwater because of this extreme weather that we keep on having. Roads are getting cut off. The Waiwaka Gorge is really fragile at times, with rock slips coming down all the time. People are looking for for a response to Cyclone Gabrielle to make sure that we're continuing to be connected. So these extreme weather events and the impact of climate change is the number one issue that people are facing. They want to see action in roading and making sure that our communities continue to be connected. And they want to make sure that we, as we're adapting to what climate change and the impacts look like, that we're actually doing it in consultation with our communities as well. Because there's some communities that will be really hard hit by that. We're a coastal electorate, and that's really important because climate change is obviously going to affect us right in those spaces. So that's the number one issue.
And Chris, for you, what is the most pressing issue in the East Coast electorate currently?
Well, I've canvassed a lot of people, and the most common answer I've got is the cost of living. People are really struggling. The rents have gone up, mortgages have gone up, people can't afford their rent and they can't find anywhere to live. So they're living in cars. And when they try and live in a say a bus, they get the council comes along and says you need to have a consent for that, but they haven't got money to get a consent. I know someone that put a tiny home in a place, and then they said that needed consent to go, and the guy was in his mid-70s. Where's he going to go and live in a car or in a motel? So yeah, I think, and then now we've got the cost of fuel going up, groceries. So I think what we've got to do is try and bring down the cost of just surviving and get the.
Yes, certainly. Lots of stuff going on at the moment. Now, question number 2, and I'll ask this to Chris at first this time. What is New Zealand's biggest challenge, and what is your key policy that your party is using to respond to it?
One of the things I hear from people is that they've lost trust and faith in the government. They think the government's not working for them. And I guess a lot of the people I'm talking to, it was related to the COVID response. And I'll give you an example. At the moment, we're in the process of signing a treaty with the World Health Organization. And that would, a lot of people are very concerned about that because it would take away our sovereignty and give that over to an unelected global institution that would have the power in a pandemic, which doesn't just include a health pandemic, but it could be a climate change pandemic or a crime pandemic, to have a binding agreement which could shut our borders, shut our businesses, mandate vaccines. So we believe that New Zealand we should be in charge of running our own country.
And Tāmati, what is New Zealand's biggest challenge, and what is the key policy that your party is using to respond to it?
Yeah, I made a very clear definition between extreme weather events being the issue that is number one for the East Coast. But in terms of what New Zealand is facing as a whole, actually the cost of living is the number one issue that I'm hearing amongst my colleagues who are scattered all around the country. And what are we going to do about it? Well, let me explain again. We are committed to food in schools and helping whānau out to be able to get through this really tight time that we're on at the moment. The winter energy payment, passionate about keeping that in place too. Making sure that we keep that $5 off our prescription so that families, when they go to get their medication, they can actually afford it, pick it up, reduce hospitalizations, keeping public transport free for under 13-year-olds and half price for under 25-year-olds, making sure that we're extending ECE from 3-year-olds, getting 20 hours of free early childhood education down to 2-year-olds, so that if there is a family that wants to go back to work, they don't have to trade off between staying home because it's not worth it, because you'll just be spending your money back in the ECE fund anyway. So extending that is also going to be a real help too. And also this election, we're pledging free dental care, the extension of that past 18 years old to 30 years old, but a goal to make that universal amongst New Zealanders all around the country.
All right, and now we come to a great time of the show where we get to hear our candidates what they would have for their private members' bills, or should we say members' bills. So any MP, any sitting MP can place a member's bill into the biscuit tin, and there is a chance for it to be pulled out, considered, and potentially passed into law. So let's ask Tāmati, what would be your first member's bill that you would introduce into the biscuit tin? And you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, can I just wax lyrical for a minute on the private members bill that I've already put in, which is around improving arrangements for surrogacy. I'm fortunate enough to be a dad to 2 young children. They are the light of my life, and it's enabled, surrogacy has enabled me to grow and have a family of my own. I've got a 4-year-old and a little 8-month-old as well, which trail around with me on the campaign. But that's been really instrumental. I'm passionate about the power of members' bills to be able to change lives for the better. I would like, actually, just waxing lyrical about it, to be able to insert the Treaty of Waitangi into the oath that all politicians take. 121 MPs stand up and they pledge their allegiance to Queen Elizabeth II. Oh, sorry, King Charles it will be the next time round. But actually, there's a real gaping hole in terms of pledging allegiance to the Treaty of Waitangi, and I think that's really important. We have a bicultural partnership operating here in New Zealand, for better or worse, and it's been like that since 1840. I think that all politicians should be swearing allegiance to it, and I hope that I really hope that that would then encourage politicians to stop using race baiting and that talk about division as political footballs in the House, and especially out on the campaign trail as we're currently seeing right now.
And Chris, what would your members' bill be?
It would be an independent inquiry into the handling of COVID. It's obviously probably the biggest thing that's happened that I can remember in New Zealand's history. So it changed New Zealand forever, and we've racked up records amounts of debt. It's divided the country, destroyed a number of small businesses. There's a lot of people that are now sick. We need to get to the bottom of why we've got record numbers of heart attacks and stillbirths and kidney disease and strokes. You know, what caused those? We need to look at what information was provided to the people. Was it accurate? Why doctors who tried to or gave advice regarding the vaccine that didn't comply with the government's narrative, why they were dismissed. So there's a lot of questions, and I think until we have an inquiry and we get all the information on the table, there's going to be some questions regarding did we get accurate information. So that's what I think. We need to be open and transparent. Did we do it right? I know there was an inquiry, but it excluded vaccine safety and effectiveness. So let's get all the cards on the table, examine everything. So if there is another pandemic, we can do it better next time.
Okay. And now our members have, our candidates have a minute to give us their closing statements. And I'd like Chris to start.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that one of the things that I bring to the table is that I speak my mind and I'm honest. I mean, the people that have been to the candidate meetings will know that I'm not afraid to say what I think. I get a lot of stick, but that's fine. People don't always agree with what I say, but I do listen to the people, and people that want me to be an advocate for them, I will, and I don't really care what people think. I'm not worried about taking a bit of stick. I'll do the best for anyone that votes for me, and I'll work hard for them.
And Tāmati.
Yeah, voters in the East Coast need somebody that can hit the ground running and know how the political system works, know how to get to Wellington and hustle. I've got a history of hustling in Wellington to date. I'm proud of the investment that our government's gone and made into the East Coast region, everything from supporting the Ōpōtiki Harbour development through to the pools in Gisborne, the Kiwa pools, which recently opened. We do the big stuff and the small stuff as well, but investment has been a legacy of our time in government, whilst navigating the huge unanticipated events too, things like Cyclone Gabrielle, Cyclone Howe before that COVID pandemic, before that the Whakaari eruption. The East Coast electorate has had it tough over the last 6 years, and I'm pledging to roll my sleeves up and to do as much as I can for the people of the East Coast region. And just as a last plug, I'm in it for them. And I believe that Chris Hipkins should be our leader, and especially after the leaders' debate last night, I think he did an amazing job and showed that he's got what it takes to be able to lead us past October 14.
Yes, well, the East Coast has been through a lot, and I hope that whichever of the two candidates gets in, because of course all the voters will be watching It's in the Ballot and making the decision based on the broadcast. I hope they can do the East Coast proud. Well, thanks for coming, candidates, and persisting with what has been one of the more difficult shows. And thanks for the viewers who are watching both live, and also the people who will be watching this in the days leading up to the election. And a big thanks to the team who has been scrambling around, carting things up and down stairs, tearing their hair out if they have any, and basically making this happen when it didn't want to happen.
From the control desk, Tāmati, you've worked in television. How far has TV gone from when you first started working back in probably your what nowadays to now?
Hugely so. The ability to go live from basically anywhere in New Zealand with a tap of a phone is a huge advancement from when I first started, and we needed a ute with a satellite dish on the back of it pointing up to the sky. I can remember being on the Chatham Islands and doing a live broadcast from there, and we needed about 300 meters of telephone cable to coordinate that live broadcast. I'm really impressed at how efficient things are. Anybody can put together a live broadcast these days, and you guys have done particularly well given the different connective issues that we've had today. So good on you guys.
Thank you for that, and thank you for joining in. Do miss my shot of being on the host desk, but I'm one of the two editors who can do both in studio and remote as the same person, which that's the reason why I'm on the control desk, and Alex is on his own on the host desk doing the questions. But that's just one of those things.
Oh well, thanks for tuning in, and we will be traveling tomorrow up to Tauranga. When's the show?
I'm just about to grab the caption up. Here we are. So the next upcoming show is It's in the Ballot Bay of Plenty Electorate at 4 p.m. at the Elizabeth Street Community.
I think that's a goodbye, Chris. See you guys.